Sometime today, someone is going to make fun of you. A friend will catch you saying something dumb and won't let it go. A coworker will land a perfect little dig, and you'll laugh, even though technically you just got insulted. You might even laugh harder because it landed. Stop and look at how weird that is. Someone pokes at you, pokes at your ego, the most defended thing you own, and instead of swinging at them, your body convulses, your face cracks open, and a strange barking noise comes out of you. We call it being roasted, and getting roasted by the right person in the right way is one of the best feelings there is. Why? Why would a social animal evolve to enjoy being targeted? And what were people doing with this teasing, this needling, this status game played for laughs long before there were group chats and comedy clubs and a single written word? Because they were absolutely doing it. The roast is not modern. It might be one of the oldest social tools we have. So here's the question. Before comedy was a job, before anyone wrote a joke down, how did ancient humans make fun of each other? And why did it feel good? The trail starts somewhere you wouldn't expect. Not with a joke at all, with a rat being tickled. The neuroscientist Robert Provine spent years chasing down where laughter actually comes from. And one of the first things he had to throw out was the obvious assumption that we laugh because something is funny. Watch real people, he found, and that's mostly not what happens. He and his students eavesdropped on hundreds of everyday laughs out in the world, and most of them didn't follow a joke at all. They followed dull little lines like, "I'll see you later," or "Are you sure?" The laughing was barely about humor. It was about who you were standing with. That's the first crack in the whole thing. Laughter looks like a reaction to comedy. It's really a social signal. And a very old one. Provine pointed out that it's older than speech, older than jokes, maybe older than humans. Rats do a version of it. Chimps do a panting, breathy thing when they wrestle and play chase. And if you slow it down, it lines up unnervingly well with where our own laugh came from. Which means the laugh was here first. The jokes showed up late, to a party that had already been going for millions of years. So what was the laugh for before it had anything funny to attach to? Here's where it gets good. Go back to tickling, because tickling is the strangest doorway into this. You cannot tickle yourself. Try it right now. You can't. And that fact is a genuine clue. Tickling only works when someone else does it to you, which tells you it was never really about the sensation. It's about the other person. It's a mock attack. A parent's fingers go for a baby's ribs, the soft, undefended places, the spots a real predator or a real enemy would go for, and the baby shrieks with laughter. What's actually happening there is rehearsal. It's two bodies practicing the line between threat and safety, over and over, learning together where play ends and danger begins. And once you see laughter as that signal, a flag that means this is fake, we're okay, no one's actually getting hurt, the entire mystery of the roast snaps into focus. The neuroscientist V.S. Ramachandran had a sharp way of putting it. He argued laughter is, at its root, a false alarm. Picture one of your ancestors walking a trail. A shape rears up. The body floods. The heart slams. Every system braces for a threat. And then, a half second later, the shape resolves into a branch. Nothing. The danger was a mistake. And the way the nervous system discharges all that primed energy, the way it announces to everyone nearby, "False alarm, stand down," is a sound. A rhythmic, panting, contagious bark. A laugh. Sit with that, because it reframes everything. Comedy, in this telling, is a tiny, controlled version of that exact arc. A joke walks you towards something, sets your brain bracing for one meaning, and then snaps it sideways into something harmless. The setup is the looming shape, the punchline is the branch, and the laugh is your old survival brain, hardwired over millions of years, calling the all clear. Now bring that back to your friend roasting you over coffee. A good burn is built on the same trick. It comes at you like an attack. It has the shape of a real insult. It goes for a soft spot, and for a flicker, your guard goes up. Then your brain registers the truth underneath it. This is play. This person isn't a threat. The aggression is fake. And the discharge of that little spike of alarm, the relief of a danger that turned out to be safe, comes out of you as a laugh. That's why a roast from someone you love feels good in a way a compliment never quite does. A compliment just says you're fine. A roast says something far more valuable. It says, I can aim at you, and we both already know I'd never actually fire. Which is exactly why the cruelest thing on earth is the same joke from the wrong mouth. Identical words, word for word, from someone who actually means it, and there's no laugh at all. Because the brain runs the same check and comes back with a real answer, not a false alarm, a true one. So that's the engine under the hood. But it leaves the bigger question, the human one. If teasing is this loaded, this close to real aggression, why did our ancestors lean into it so hard? Why build a whole social life around poking each other? Because for most of human history, the roast wasn't just entertainment. It may have been one of the only tools a group had to keep itself from tearing apart. Anthropologists who've lived with hunter-gatherer bands keep noticing the same thing, and one example has become almost famous. The anthropologist Richard Lee spent time with the Jews/Hawanzi people of the Kalahari, and he wrote about a custom they have that sounds backwards until you understand it. When a hunter brings down a big animal, a real prize, the meat the whole camp needs, the worst thing he can do is walk in proud. So the group does something deliberate. They mock the kill. They tell him the animal's a bag of bones, barely worth the walk, that they'll be ashamed to even eat it, and the hunter is expected to agree, to play along, to put himself down. Lee asked them why, and the answer he got is one of the sharpest pieces of social engineering you'll ever hear from anyone, anywhere. They told him, in effect, that a man who kills a lot of meat can start to think of himself as a big man and start to think of the rest of them as his inferiors. They couldn't accept that, so they cool his pride with mockery on purpose to keep him level with everyone else. The teasing isn't cruelty, it's a thermostat. It's how a group with no police, no chief, no boss keeps any one person from rising up and turning into a tyrant. That changes what the roast actually is. It's not a break from the serious business of survival. For a small band with no written law, mockery was part of the law. It was how you enforce the unspoken rule that nobody gets to be better than everybody. A spear keeps you safe from the animal outside the circle. A well-aimed joke keeps you safe from the man inside it who's getting too big. And here's the part that I think should genuinely move you. We have proof this is ancient. Real, physical proof. The oldest written joke anyone has dug up is Sumerian, scratched into clay around 4,000 years ago. And it's a fart joke. I'm not going to pretend it's a masterpiece. The translation is rough and the setup's a little lost to time. But the punchline is about a young wife passing gas in her husband's lap. That's it. 4,000 years ago, the very first joke someone considered worth pressing permanently into stone, the kind of effort you'd only spend on something you really wanted to keep, was a fart joke. Now, you could read that as a little embarrassing for the species. I'd read it the exact opposite way. It means the thing that made a person laugh in a mud brick house in Mesopotamia is the same thing that makes a 7-year-old lose it at the dinner table tonight. The wiring hasn't moved. The button is in the identical spot. Across 4,000 years and a dead language and a whole vanished civilization, the joke still basically works. And that continuity is one of the most human things I know of. Be careful, though, not to romanticize the whole thing into harmlessness, because the same tool has always cut both ways. Teasing keeps a group equal, yes. It can also be how a group decides who's out. The exact same machinery that cools an arrogant hunter can be turned on the kid who's different, the outsider, the one who doesn't fit, and it stops being a thermostat and becomes a weapon. Mockery is just aimed social pressure. Pointed at someone getting too big, and it protects everyone. Pointed at someone already small, and it crushes them. Our ancestors knew both edges of that knife. So do you. You felt the warm version with your friends, and somewhere back in a schoolyard, you probably felt the cold one too. Same tool, opposite uses. So look at what's really going on the next time you and a friend are roasting each other into the ground. You're not just messing around. You're running a piece of equipment older than language, older than your species, built when the difference between a joke and an attack could decide whether you lived. The laugh in your chest is a false alarm, fired by a brain that spent millions of years learning to tell a real threat from a fake one. The teasing itself is the same leveling tool that kept little bands of humans from collapsing into kings and servants. And the fact that you can be poked at your softest spot and answer with joy instead of a fist, that might be one of the most sophisticated things our species ever learned to do. So the next time someone roasts you and you feel that bark of a laugh come up out of you, don't apologize for it. Notice what it actually is. It's a false alarm going off in a body that's safe. It's an attack with the danger removed and the love left in. It's 4,000 years of people, all the way back to a fart joke in clay, doing the exact same impossible thing you're doing right now, turning the threat of each other into the pleasure of each other. We figured out how to aim at the people we love and miss on purpose, and to laugh while we do it. Nothing else on the planet roasts its friends, just us. If you like taking something you do all the time without thinking, a laugh, the color of the sky, a glance at the clock, and following it down to the ancient human underneath, subscribe and stick around. There's a lot more of that hidden machinery waiting in here, and we're only getting started.